The harsh truth is you deserve to grow without compromising your well-being. Hey YouTube, it's your girl Kristen here on Krissy Speaks. Welcome back to my channel. If you're a new subscriber, hi, I'm Kristen. I post a little bit of everything. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back, speaker gang. Y'all tired of my intro? I don't care. So let's get straight into the topic of today's video. We're going to be talking about self-preservation and why it's good to kind of protect yourself, especially in the seasons where we're growing, we're learning, and we're at our most vulnerable. So if you're new to my page, we always break down what we're talking about. I love a good definition so we don't get misconstrued and so we understand what is self-preservation. According to ChatGPT, shout out to AI, self-preservation is a form of self-care that goes beyond our instincts and protecting our physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. I really enjoy the word protecting. When I thought of the idea of self-preservation and even wanted to bring this topic to you guys, I wanted to talk about self-preservation in a way that was not selfish, in a way that didn't seem like we were hiding out of fear from people to protect ourselves. Almost in a way that we were protecting ourselves in a healthy way. I'm going to break this down into 3 topics: our spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. I kind of want to dive into those a little deeper and talk about how we can preserve ourselves in those seasons. And I will say self-preservation is not selfish, but it's essential for our personal growth and development. All right. So on the topic of spiritual growth, let's just talk about valuing and protecting our own peace. So let's kind of break down that value part. I was watching a podcast recently with Dr. Umar. I actually love him. And he was talking about providership and value. Even Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, this whole conversation of value being brought up in a different term, but breaking down value. Value is something that you appreciate, meaning when Dr. Umar was talking about value, he was saying sometimes men show their value in their providership or their love based on providership. So based on paying bills and, you know, buying you the things that you want. But he said often women and children don't reciprocate that value. They don't value those things because that's not what they value in love. With saying all that, I would say, 1, you have to value your peace in life. I say that because I've been in multiple seasons where I didn't value peace. I was used to anybody and everyone coming in and out of my home, especially when I lived off campus and like my friends got our first like apartment. I used to let everyone come in before and after class, on the weekends, before party ends, and it kind of messed up the atmosphere and messed up like the spiritual growth I was setting and the atmosphere that I was setting in my own room and throughout the house. I didn't value protecting my peace, my own mindfulness, having like a peace of mind, quietness, and even just the space to grow by myself, which is pivotal because I feel like in a generation where we rely a lot on relationships, whether they be platonic friendships or romantic relationships, we're so used to being around someone or always having something to do that oftentimes when we have the opportunity to stay still, we run away from it. Like we don't want to sit in our thoughts too long. So we have to value the peace in the space that we're growing in. And especially spiritually, you can do this through mindfulness and using your discernment. So mindfulness is just being aware of the situation. Like, am I being aware of who I'm letting have my energy, who I'm pouring into, who am I allowing in my space? What am I allowing to kind of go in my ear gates? Because a lot of times the things people say to you, these are all spiritual enactments that sometimes we take a little too lightly. So all the time, energy and money that we pour into other people, it's time that we pour it into ourselves. And I've been really learning that on this self-preservation journey of mine. I used to always be the friend who, when I'm going through things, I just like keep it to myself. But during those seasons, I was like pouring into people and telling them like, you're going to make it. It's going to be okay. I'm just speaking life into people. And I wasn't getting that back. You know, people calling me every day, draining me. I have my own obligations. You know, when I'm supposed to be at the gym and you're calling me and I'm taking the time to pour into you or to kind of hear the murmur or the moodiness of the day, it takes away from myself. And I used to think that was like a superpower, always showing up for someone, always being there to pour into them. I used to think it was so great, and it is. God's going to use that, and he has used that. I see that's one of my gifts. However, I learned that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So if I'm pouring, and then by the time I'm empty, now I have to go to God to recharge, and then I start pouring back into other people. When do I have the time to pour it into myself? So even with money and stuff like that, I used to pour a lot of money into like bullcrap, Uber Eats, Ubers everywhere, sending money to people, the bud man, everybody's getting paid but me. You know what I mean? I get paid, and then I go allocate my money elsewhere. I tell my students that all the time. If you guys ever watch this video, shout out to y'all. Make sure that your money is making money. So not just investing, which is great, but make sure what you're pouring in, start investing in yourself, investing in your look, investing in your hobbies, investing in your business. Don't pay everyone before you pay yourself, or before you pay God. But all of those energies and pouring, I feel like they reflect spiritually and within, and it can be hard to allocate all that time and funds and energy. So make sure you're allocating it right. So in the last point view of spiritual growth, I wrote that self-preservation creates the space for spiritual alignment and discernment. So with spiritual self-preservation, I believe it's pivotal because you will hear God clearer. When you shut out the noise of your friends telling you what's right and wrong, your family telling you what's right and wrong, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. When you have people constantly feeding all their different energies, ideologies, emotions, beliefs onto you, it can be so hard to hear God because you're always distracted. It's loud around you. So self-preservation is so pivotal because when you go into your quiet time, in your quiet hour, and even as a baby Christian, I don't know, like a baby Christian starting back with God in a more intimate way, people kept telling me you're going to want to have quiet time alone with God. And I was used to like listening to sermons, playing gospel music, and even that can get loud, and not just through sounds. It can get loud, always feeling like God has to be this sermon preached at you, and this hard. Sometimes it's just a conversation. Sometimes it's you sitting in silence and actually listening. A great conversation goes both ways. You have to speak sometimes, and you also have to know when to listen. So when I say preserving yourself, sometimes it's good to get away from people because you can shut out the noise. Therefore, you can go into quiet space with God. Therefore, you can hear him more clearly and have a clear and strong idea of what he's asking from you or what you need to do in this season. All right? So say, I believe in this season of my life, the spiritual growth of self-preservation is the most important for me because I've been through so many seasons where me running away from God and me turning my back on him, it has left me in dark seasons. It's left me in seasons where I was just like non-intentional with men, and that left me really broken, looking for love, and it left me very insecure in places as well. It left me, when I turned my back away from God and I put my friends as like my sound ear and my wise counsel, it was the blind leading the blind. So sometimes too, I know we look to our friends for spiritual guidance, and even our parents sometimes, but you have to identify what season they're in, because I can only give you advice or spiritual alignment from where I'm at. So to me, I don't know if this is wrong. God, correct me if it's wrong. I'm not looking for spiritual advice for someone who's not even spiritually seeking out God, and in my relationships, a lot of my friendships, I realized that I was the first friend to start seeking out God. And that doesn't make your friends non-qualified, that you can never say anything or ask them for advice. But that is to say, if I'm looking for godly advice and I know my friends ain't communing with God, why would I go seek that advice? We have to start using discernment. We have to start being honest in our seasons, in our walk. And we have to know when it's time to self-preserve. Moving on the topic of emotional growth and self-preservation. And I know I keep saying self-preservation, and I talked about protecting with those instincts, like those boundaries, having walls, knowing when to let in and when to let out. Emotional growth, we're learning to navigate the difference between healthy and toxic relationships. So what does that look like? It looks like managing our emotional energy. Learning when to say no to things that drain you and your commitment moves you away from them. And then also knowing when to say yes to things that fuel you and that are purposeful in your life and in your season. If you struggle with like attachment styles, like anxious attachments, avoidant attachments, even if you just struggle emotionally, like having boundaries or being a people pleaser, I think the emotional growth can be the most difficult part because most of the things that fuel us are based off of emotion. And I was watching a podcast, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant said, emotions are good, feelings are bad. And at first I was like, baby, do they make no sense? You're a doctor. But I had to listen. Emotions, we feel them. We're going to feel anger. We're going to feel happiness. We're going to feel joy. We're going to feel fear. That's cool. These emotions are normal, you know? Our feelings, it's when we start to say, well, I feel like. Well, I'm not, you know, when we get in our feelings, you know when they say get out your feelings, get in your bag, that when we get in our feelings, they start to screw and they start to lead our actions, which then lead our character and our destination. So all of those things. So it really just starts with the root of where your emotions are coming from and how do we identify them? How do we use them? As someone who used to like run away and just stop picking up the phone and stuff when I was emotionally drained and tired, I'm still working on that because I'm actually in this season as well. Like I'm ready to just delete my Instagram for a month or 2 or 3 and just focus on the things that bring me life. I stopped answering my phone really for all of my friends at this season. If it's not an emergency, babes, I just need a second because it's crucial that I play a big part in my life. It's crucial that I manage my emotions and I know when to create boundaries. And that gets hard when you're constantly picking up the phone for people. When do you take the time to actually implement these boundaries, implement the self-preservation, implement being emotionally, mentally, and spiritually refilled? When you're constantly giving out and giving out and giving out, you don't. So it's okay to walk away. Even I've had to walk away emotionally in this season, like currently right now, because I realized if I were to let people keep overstepping, I would lose myself. Like if I would keep letting people give me the advice, tell me all these things are draining me, guys. Like being on social media, living life is already hard to not compare yourself. It's already hard because we have so many options to pick one thing to do. So imagine just having friends who are not in your shoes and they're just constantly down, like unloading it. It can be a lot emotionally. I always used to tell myself if I was the more blunt version of myself all the times, if I said the things that go on in my head instead of holding back, I would be a more confident person. And I say that because in my head, oftentimes, when they even wanted to vent about the boys, I'm using this as an example, I was like, girl, what? Like, this is not your nigga. Like, you know what I mean? And my daddy's in the hospital. Like, we got bigger fish to fry, babes. But my heart, my emotions, the people pleaser in me was like, my friend is going through a moment. Even though I'm going through a moment, let me just talk her off. Now, that sounds good, but we just spoke from pouring from an empty cup. My cup is empty. But I'm on D and D, babes. Like, do not disturb. And I'm about to take my last, sip of water and throw it on you at this point, So it becomes a time in our life where we have to value ourselves and our own state of minds. And then we have to start just knowing when to say no. I said that in this. It says know when to say no to draining commitments, even draining conversations, and know when to say yes for things that fuel you, Can we call and turn this conversation around? Of course. Can we call and, pull up a scripture that God said it's going to work out? Of course. But I could say no, that I don't want to have this conversation 1,000 times. Some of y'all be on Facebook like, oh, I don't care if my friend called me with the same problem for 500 times, I'm going to be there. That's great for you. If you have the mental and emotional capacity and stamina to do it, pick up that damn phone, girl. But me, in this season, and probably the next couple of seasons, I'm not doing it. Babes, you could tell me once or twice, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7 times. But them 8, 9 to 500 times, you better go to God about it. You better go to God about it, because I'm saying no. It just got intense, y'all. Let's move on to physical growth. Okay. So, physical growth. I talked a lot about like wanting to level up and be more intentional, eat right, work out, be healthy in a lot of my other videos. I usually use weight loss analogies in every one of my videos. But I'm not just talking about like a healthy weight loss kind of physical growth when I speak about this. I really want to talk about like rest and recovery. I will say physical growth, like having rest and recovery, is hard to do when you're constantly like going out and draining yourself in a physical manner. What does that mean? Give me an example, Kristen. When I was in college, we was teed up. Every weekend, freshman, sophomore, senior year was like the year I slowed down. You know what I mean? Freshman, sophomore, even in COVID. Like when we came back from COVID, we were still outside with the COVID cards in the club, period. We did not care. But like it became every week, every weekend, you're going out, you're getting drunk. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you trying to like recover, do your homework for Monday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then Friday, everybody was at my crib after class anyways, blowing down trees and drinking wine. You know what I'm trying to say? Monday through Friday. This is a Monday through Sunday affair. And with that being said, finding the time to rest and physically rest and like recover was out of this world. Like, I don't know. That's probably why I don't go out as much now, because if you ever hear older people, they're like, now it takes like that hangover process is it's not worth it. And I'm starting to feel that like my rest and recovery is so important that I don't want to go out knowing I have responsibilities in the morning. I don't want to get shit-faced knowing, oh, excuse me, Lord. I don't want to go out and get blacked out or too lit that tomorrow I might not feel my best and I can't make it to my workout, can't make it to class, don't want to get up and film or post that video. And I've done that in seasons. I've went out on dates or hung out with a friend because I wanted to be outside to be distracted, but I knew I had responsibilities at home. So even when we talk about not just going out for physical self-preservation, sometimes even going out will pull you from your responsibilities. Like I said, I've said yes to things knowing, girl, you probably should be editing that video, or you probably should be recording that branded content that you need. And that has set me back multiple seasons and multiple years. So really just finding the time for rest and recovery is really important to heal your body physically, like even internally, and learning how to implement sleep. Getting them 7 to 8 hours, they're really crucial. I've been valuing my sleep lately. Having a balanced diet, of course, because I don't know if I have said this in multiple videos, but I believe a lot of our diet is interconnected with our spirituality. It's interconnected with our emotions. So if you're constantly putting in things that either fuels you or kills you, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I don't want to argue. If you're gonna even when I eat a donut and a Krispy Kreme and a crumble, I know that's killing me. And that's a crazy concept to say. Like, you would take a little bite of poison. You would take a little bit of something that's gonna kill you every day. It's crazy to say. But that's why we have to be mindful. Like I said, having balanced nutrition, getting out and exercising, putting in that time and growth for your physical body, even if it's to be aesthetically more self-pleasing to yourself, to others, because that's a thing. I would say there's self-discipline and physical transformation. Like, you cannot physically transform without being disciplined. But it's also good to self-preserve, like take a step back and value that, because my dad used to say something, and I always says, once I quote my father, that means you know he said something, because I usually don't quote him. No shade, Daddy, I love you. But my father used to tell me in college, and I wish I would have listened. That's what I'm telling y'all now. He used to say, focus on yourself and do what you have to do, because everyone in college is going to get exactly what they came for except for you. And I used to get upset when he used to say this, and I used to feel like he didn't think I was like on my sugar honey iced tea, which I wasn't. He was clocking my tea. But I used to get upset at this notion until I focused on everyone else in college and I got left with the deficit. I had to complete classes after we walked the stage. So I got to walk the stage on time, but when we left, I had still classes and credits to make up. The girls graduated. We're done though. We're out of school. We're done. Credits is there, diplomas here, okay? But with that saying, I spent 4 years diving into people. I have put so much time, energy, money, spiritual resources into people that I'm not even friends with or cool with to today. You know what I'm trying to say? So all the people that I was saying, yeah, come over so you could smoke while I was in class on Zoom. You know what I'm trying to say? And the money I was giving out and the blood I was giving out, knowing I was a broke college student, calling my parents to get money to go out and stuff, and working jobs and just time, energy. I poured it into so many people that, you know what I mean, that spit on my name at the end of the day. But that's neither here nor there. The point was, all the pouring and pouring and pouring I did to other people, I got left with the deficit. I left college broken down spiritually, emotionally, even physically. I was the one who graduated and walked the stage, but I had to go home and finish up credits. And I got left insecure too. Like, a lot of things I felt like were taken from me. They're not. It's in me, not on me, babes. You can never take it. So when I speak about this idea of self-preservation, is because you can find yourself in seasons where you're giving and giving and giving, and they're getting what they want. They're getting the money, they're getting uplifted, they're getting your time, your energy, they're being boosted up, but you're being left at deficit. And then you're the one who has to go home and be like, damn, I'm still not where I want to be. You know what I mean? Why don't I speak highly of myself and pour into myself like I do others? Why don't I love myself like I love others? Why don't I go the extra mile and stay disciplined and keep my word to me like I keep my word to them? That's a real thing that we have to battle at. And I battle it to this day, self-preservation. And you know, me and my therapist are working through that. Like, it's a work in progress. So yeah. So to end off this video, I did have some, you know, more ending tabs. In life, we have to identify what is helping us and what is hurting us in this current season. So if your friends are helping you, they're pouring into you, they're loving on you. If your spouse is in the season, that may be something you want to keep. If they're hurting you in the season, if you feel like you're out of alignment because you're moving in a different space, and operating in a different space than they are, then maybe it's hurting you. So I would say, to help with this too, we have to start creating a routine that prioritizes our self-preservation. I mentioned I wasn't picking up the phone and stuff unless emergencies, because I'm now trying to create a routine where I put myself first, meaning my tasks need to be done. I've poured into myself for the day. I did what Kristen wants to do. And if I want to pick up the phone at the end of the day because my tasks have done, I feel emotionally, spiritually, and physically up to par to converse with people or to pour into people or just, hey, be on the phone and laugh, then that's something I would do. But because I've spent 3, 4, 5, 6, 24 years doing the complete opposite of that, I need to take this time to create a routine and discipline to not do that. You know, stop picking up the phone. My stuff's not together, you know, and that's okay. It's not selfish. It's preservation. Now, if you're in a season where you're trying to self-preserve, but you do not want to go ghost or hibernate, I would say find effective ways to communicate your boundaries in this season. I actually have a video on boundaries. I'll link it down below. And that is key and quintessential to living a healthy life and just interacting with people in general. You're going to have boundaries. You're going to have do's and don'ts. And you're going to have to stand on them. And if you don't, you're going to be left in this loop, baby. That's why you're watching this video. Find ways to effectively communicate with the people around you about your wants and needs during the season. I'm actually working with my therapist because this is the one thing I do struggle with. As someone who's an avid talker, check out my platforms. As a former people pleaser, I've struggled with not wanting to create conflict in any of my relationships. Therefore, I sometimes avoid having hard conversations, especially when I feel like we haven't had those, like we don't have that relationship. I have relationships in my life that we started our friendships off by just being completely blunt, completely honest. So it's made it easier to navigate certain hard conversations. I also have friends where everything's been so dandy that when it is time to address the bigger issue, I get nervous that they may resent me. This may be a conflict, definitely a fight or flight conflict situation. So I'm still learning at my big old age how to just have that conversation, you know. Oh, there's this song, Balloon, Tyler, the Creator. He said, call them and get that off your chest. And sometimes you do, but effectively communicate those things. So yeah. And I will say this, to end on one note, self-preservation is not a luxury, but it is the foundation for becoming the best you spiritually, emotionally, and physically, okay? So set the foundation. It's not a luxury. You're going to have to work to self-preserve, to have more of yourself for you, for your man, for Jesus, for your friends, for your community. You're going to have to self-preserve a little, okay? Yeah, that is all that I have for this video, guys. I hope we took a lot from it. It feels so good to be filming for you guys effectively. I know we missed a week, but thank you so much for our the engagement on my last video, you guys. It means so much to me. God and you guys were definitely showing me it's something I'm supposed to do. Girl, get on here and talk your junk, because that last video, I will say, that last video, I was just like, oh, I gotta film today. Oh, let me just get up and do it. And that has not been my mentality. It takes a lot. And today I felt like that too. So thank you guys so much for showing the love and keep coming back to my channel. I love you guys so much. Until my next video. Mwah. Speaker ganger, no gang.